Well, ladies and gentlemen, this build is slowly coming to a close this episode. There's only a few things we need to add, like washes, weathering, and glue on some other details. If you like how this winter whitewash looks, then you should totally check out the previous episode in the series because that's where I show you all about how I painted it. Anyway, let's get started. I'm using this blue dirt enamel wash from Ammo to apply to all of the blue surfaces on the model. I'm not really being too careful at all here. I'm just making sure it gets into every single surface detail on the model. Because it's enamel based, it takes a while to fully dry, and so we'll have time to remove any unnecessary wash we don't want. And so that's exactly what I do after the wash has had a few minutes to dry. I'm simply wiping it off with a napkin, and you can see how easily it's coming off, leaving all that we need inside those surface details. Yeah, it looks much better now. For all the other parts, I'm using this winter camouflage wash, which is this dark green brown mixture, and I'm applying it using the same way, just not being very precise with the brush because we can always wipe off the excess away. I don't see a reason using a different color on the green surfaces, so here I am also using the same color dark green wash on the engine cowling. The only exception is that here I use a pure black wash from Tamiya to bring out the details on those side panels. Okay, let's take a break from weathering for a bit and move on to building the landing gear. The gear bay doors are made out of photo etched parts, and there were a few more metal details going on to the landing gear. They were painted the same way as the bottom side of the plane was, to make them blend together better. So first primed in gray, then painted the sky blue, then I applied the stencil decals that were on them, and sealed everything with a coat of clear. The opposite side was painted in interior gray from AK Real Colors. Last thing before the landing gear goes on the plane is I painted these parts that would get polished a lot during the retraction and extraction of the landing gear with chrome silver. The fit was nice and I secured them with a mixture of cement and super glue. Tires were painted with a mixture of dark gray and black to get that smooth, sort of rubbery tire look. The rest of the details on them I painted with the brush and the interior gray color. And here's why I painted them on the sprues, because I was going to sand down a bit of the tire anyway for the impression that the tires were a bit flat. It's a nice little detail and it makes the plane look heavy. At this point I realized I was happy with the finish and that I wasn't going to airbrush anything major on the model anymore, so I could take off the masks from the canopy. I used the same blue wash on the gear bay doors as we used on the underside of the plane to make sure that they blend together. I used a dark brown wash from Tamiya on the other side to make it look a little bit dirty. The propeller subassembly was really easy to put together, and this is one of the more simple ones to paint, as the Soviets painted their propellers all black, at least for the most part. Then it was all about trying to make it stick in place, but also making sure it spins. Now it's time to bust out some oil paints and do some more weathering. I try to make some sort of dirt buildup on the roots of the wings where people would walk with light gray and brown, but it was too much, so I ended up removing everything. The only thing I left was a very small sort of grime buildup at the very root of the wing. Now let's paint a leak from the oil cooler with some burnt umber by making some streaks with it, and then blending them with a soft brush and some enamel thinner. These types of effects may not always be super realistic, but they always contrast nicely on light surfaces like blues and light grays. The great thing about weathering with oil paints is that if we're not happy with the result for some reason, we could always remove all of our work with some enamel thinner. The exhaust pipes were really small on this model, so I simply painted them in dark gray and then applied this dark rust wash to them. I'm not very confident in my airbrushing abilities, so when it comes to exhaust, once again, I stick to oil paints. If I airbrush, I have a fear that I'll put too much on, and then I won't be able to remove it, and then that'll ruin the model, and you know how it goes. This landing gear wash was applied to the wheels and the landing gear just to make them a little more dusty and weathered, because they were looking kinda out of place with the rest of the weathered aircraft. Of course, we can't forget to add some speckling, which is like one of the easiest techniques out there. Like, it's completely idiot proof because you could just remove any drops you don't like with enamel thinner. And I also dirtied up the gear bay doors with some brown oil paint because they were standing out like a sore thumb. The canopy I attached with PVA glue because it's not going to react with the paint, not going to melt the plastic, and it's going to dry in a clear film. And oh boy, am I glad for the rigging to be this simple again on World War II aircraft. And I'm using the same stretchy 0.3mm rigging from Ammo. The very last details were some scratches on the leading edges of the propeller blades, and some on the engine cowling where the crew would have been accessing it a lot. Navigation lights were painted with clear red and clear blue over chrome silver. And that's the end of the build. There's nothing else to add. I gotta say, I'm really quite pleased with the result. Especially for a first time me painting winter camo, this is quite acceptable. Honestly, I had a blast making this model. There were really no hiccups on it and everything went super smoothly. Well, tell me what you guys think of it, or if there's anything that you would add that I didn't. But either way, if you enjoyed the video, then consider giving it a like and subscribing because more series like this are coming in the future. You could also follow me on my Instagram and my Facebook page so you could see more pictures and updates. I'll link them both down in the description. So that's it, I hope you enjoyed and hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.